Admiral Jake Morrison was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm started screaming across Luna Station. The hot liquid splashed across his uniform as he jumped from his chair and ran toward the command center. Officers were shouting over each other while screens flashed red warnings that made no sense. "Sir, we have contacts," Lieutenant Commander Sarah Williams called out from her station. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the fear underneath. 12 massive objects just appeared in Earth orbit. No warning, no detection by our sensors until they were already there. Jake stared at the main display screen. The objects were huge, each one the size of a small city. They looked like nothing humanity had ever built or imagined. Smooth curves flowed into sharp angles, and strange lights pulsed along their hulls in patterns that hurt to watch. The ships hung in space above Earth like giant predators studying their prey. "How big are they exactly?" Jake asked while grabbing his command headset. "The smallest one is 3 kilometers long, sir. The largest is almost 8 kilometers. Our biggest warship is only 400 meters long." Sarah's fingers danced across her controls as she pulled up more data. "Sir, these ships are putting out energy readings that are off our charts. If they wanted to attack Earth, our defenses wouldn't even slow them down." Jake felt his stomach drop. Humanity had been exploring space for less than 50 years. They had colonies on 6 worlds and thought they were doing well. Now it seemed they were children playing with toys while adults watched from the shadows. "Get me President Carter on the emergency channel," Jake ordered, "and contact all our ships in the outer system. I want to know if these aliens have visited our colonies too." The communication officer nodded and started working. Jake watched the alien ships on his screen and tried to think of what humanity could possibly do against such overwhelming power. Earth had 24 orbital defense platforms armed with their best weapons. The alien ships could probably destroy all of them without taking any damage. "Admiral Morrison," the communication officer called out. "I have President Carter on the line. She says similar ships have appeared over all our colony worlds at the same time. She wants to know what our options are." Jake closed his eyes for a moment. Options were something they definitely did not have. "Tell the President I'll call her back in 10 minutes. I need to see what these aliens want first." As if they had been listening, one of the alien ships began transmitting. The signal was strange, reaching directly into their computers and translating itself into perfect English. Jake had never seen technology that could do such a thing. "Attention, primitive species of the 3rd planet." The voice was cold and mechanical. "You will now receive the honor of joining the Galactic Council as a member species. I am Ambassador Zethkol of the Vectar Empire. Your leaders will present themselves for instruction." Jake looked around the command center. Everyone was staring at him, waiting for orders he didn't know how to give. First contact with aliens was supposed to be a moment of celebration for humanity. Instead, it felt like a death sentence. "This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Terran Defense Fleet," he transmitted back. "We welcome contact with your species. What does joining your council require?" The response came immediately. "Your species will surrender 60% of your planetary resources to council administration. 40% of your population will be relocated to serve council needs in various capacities. Your remaining people will follow council law and accept council oversight of your development. This is standard procedure for new member species." The command center went completely silent. Jake felt like someone had hit him in the chest with a hammer. They weren't talking about joining some galactic community as equals. They were talking about slavery on a scale that humanity had never imagined. "And if we refuse?" Jake asked, though he was afraid of the answer. "Refusal is not possible," Ambassador Zethkol replied. "However, your species has shown some interesting qualities during our observation period. Therefore, you are granted 30 standard galactic days to prepare for integration. This is more time than most species receive." Jake wanted to ask what happened to species that didn't get extra time, but he was pretty sure he didn't want to know. Instead, he asked, "How long have you been observing us?" "Your species was first noted when you achieved nuclear fusion. We have watched your development for approximately 200 of your years. Your tendency toward conflict and adaptation shows potential value to the Council. Do not waste this opportunity. 200 years. These aliens had been watching humanity since before Jake's great-grandfather was born. They had seen every war, every scientific breakthrough, every moment when humans thought they were alone in the universe. The feeling of being watched by invisible eyes for so long made Jake feel sick. "I need to consult with our leaders," Jake said. "Will you harm our people during these 30 days?" "Harm is not intended," the alien replied. "However, Any attempt to flee or attack Council vessels will result in immediate integration without the extended preparation period. Consider this your final warning. The transmission ended, leaving Jake staring at screens full of impossible alien ships. He called President Carter back and explained what the ambassador had said. Her face on the screen went pale as she listened. 60% of our resources and 40% of our people, she repeated slowly. Jake, they're talking about taking nearly 2 billion human beings as slaves. Yes, ma'am. And they act like they're doing us a favor by giving us time to get ready for it. President Carter was quiet for a long moment. I'm calling an emergency session of the Global Defense Committee. We need to hear from every colony world and every military commander. Maybe someone has an idea about how to fight ships that big. Jake nodded, but he wasn't feeling hopeful. Humanity had always been good at fighting each other, but these aliens had technology that was centuries ahead of anything humans could build. Still, he had to try something. Ma'am, I'm going to start moving our ships into defensive positions around Earth and our colonies. It probably won't help, but I can't just sit here and wait. Do whatever you think is best, Jake, and start thinking about whether we have any weapons or tactics that might surprise them. These aliens seem very confident that we can't fight back. Maybe that confidence is a weakness we can use. After the call ended, Jake looked out at the alien ships floating above Earth like storm clouds. 30 days to figure out how to fight an enemy that could probably destroy human civilization in 30 minutes. It seemed impossible, but Jake had never backed down from a fight in his life. He wasn't about to start now, even if this fight was against the entire galaxy. Dr. Helen Davis had not slept in 3 days. Her laboratory at the Global Research Institute was filled with computer screens, showing alien transmission data that made her feel sick every time she looked at it. Coffee cups and empty food containers covered every flat surface, but Helen barely noticed. She was too busy uncovering the horrible truth about galactic civilization. The breakthrough had come when she realized the alien transmissions were using multiple languages at once. Hidden beneath the English translation were communication protocols in dozens of other alien tongues. Helen's computers were slowly decoding these hidden messages, and what they revealed was worse than humanity's worst nightmares. The Council operates 40,000 species across the galaxy. Helen muttered to herself as she read through another decoded file. Only 12 species have any real power. The rest are classified as resource generators, labor units, or support systems. She pulled up a galactic map that showed the Council's territory. Red dots marked the homeworlds of the 12 ruling species, all located in the safest regions of the galaxy, with the best planets and most resources. Yellow dots showed the locations of client species that had some limited self-government, but still answered to Council authority. Green dots marked resource extraction worlds where entire species existed only to mine materials or grow food for their masters. The green dots outnumbered everything else by 100 to 1. Helen's hands were shaking as she opened another file that contained population records. Species after species showed the same pattern. Before Council membership, they had billions of people living on multiple worlds. After integration, their populations dropped to just enough to maintain whatever job the Council had assigned them. Her computer beeped with an incoming message from Commander Sam Phillips at Intelligence Command. Sam had been working with a team of hackers to break into Council communication networks, and his reports were just as disturbing as Helen's research. Helen, you need to see what we found in the Council archives, Sam's message read. I'm sending you files about something called the Theron Resistance. These people tried to fight back 800 years ago. Helen opened Sam's files and immediately wished she hadn't. The Theron Confederacy had been a group of 12 allied species that refused Council membership. They had good technology and strong military forces. For 50 years they fought against Council expansion into their territory. The files showed what happened next in brutal detail. The Council didn't just defeat the Theron forces. They destroyed every planet in Theron space, not just the military bases or the government centers, but everything. Billions of people, thousands of years of culture and history, entire solar systems turned into empty space filled with asteroid debris. They didn't just win the war, Helen whispered to herself. They erased the Theron species from existence. She kept reading and found records of other resistance movements. The Mechanical Corps had tried to rebel 300 years ago. Now they existed only as mindless drones that maintained Council infrastructure. The plant-like Verdani had refused to surrender their forest worlds 200 years ago. Now they were decorative gardens in council administrative centers. Every species that said no to the council ended up dead, enslaved, or something worse. Helen's computer chimed with another priority message, this one from Captain Ryan Brooks commanding the exploration ship Terra Nova. Ryan was stationed near the edge of human space and had been reporting strange encounters with other aliens. Dr. Davis, something very wrong is happening out here, Ryan's message began. We've made contact with 3 different alien species in the past week. They all claim to be independent traders, but they're acting very strange. They ask about our defenses and our population, but when we ask about their homeworlds, they just say their people are happy serving the council. Helen felt her stomach tighten. She opened the video files Ryan had attached, showing his meetings with these alien traders. The creatures looked healthy enough, but their eyes were empty. They spoke in flat, emotionless voices about how wonderful it was to serve the greater galactic community. When Ryan asked about their art or culture or history, they just stared at him with blank expressions. They've been broken, Helen realized with horror. The council doesn't just kill rebels. They turn entire species into empty shells. She started cross-referencing the trader species with her council archives. All 3 groups showed up in the files as former client species that had been adjusted for optimal integration after showing signs of independence. The adjustment process involved something the council called cultural realignment therapy. Helen didn't want to know what that therapy involved, but she kept reading anyway. Humanity needed to understand what they were facing. The therapy apparently used a combination of drugs, neural implants, and psychological conditioning to remove what the council called counterproductive individuality from problem species. Her computer beeped again with an urgent message from Sam Phillips. This one was marked with the highest security classification. Helen, get to Intelligence Command right now. We intercepted something big. The Council is planning to start integration procedures on our colony worlds in 10 days, not 30. They're sending conversion ships to begin cultural realignment on our frontier settlements. Helen grabbed her research files and ran for the door. As she sprinted through the hallways toward the transport pad, her mind was racing with implications. If the Council was moving early, it meant they saw humanity as more of a threat than they were letting on. But it also meant that human colonists were about to become test subjects for the same process that had turned dozens of alien species into empty-eyed servants. The transport ride to intelligence. Command took 20 minutes, but it felt like hours. Helen kept thinking about the files she had read and the pattern they revealed. The Council had perfected a system of galactic control that had worked for thousands of years. They didn't need to destroy rebellious species anymore because they had learned how to reprogram them instead. When Helen arrived at Intelligence Command, Sam was waiting for her with Admiral Morrison and President Carter on a secure video link. The president looked like she had aged 10 years in the past week. Dr. Davis, please tell me you have some good news, President Carter said, because everything else we're learning about these aliens is terrifying. Helen wished she could give the president what she wanted, but the truth was too important. Ma'am, I've analyzed over 10,000 council files in the past 3 days. The galactic civilization they're offering us membership in is actually the largest slavery operation in history. They've turned thousands of species into biological robots programmed to serve the Council's needs. She pulled up the galactic map on the conference room display. These 12 species at the center control everything. Every other species exists only to make their lives easier. Mining worlds, factory worlds, farm worlds, entertainment worlds, all staffed by people who used to be free but have been mentally adjusted to enjoy their slavery. Admiral Morrison leaned forward in his chair. What about species that fight back? They get erased, Helen said simply. Complete extinction. The only choice the Council gives anyone is slavery or death. President Carter was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was steady, but Helen could see the determination in her eyes. Then we need to find a third option, because humanity is not going to accept either of those choices. Dr. Kevin Turner stood in front of a wall covered with pictures of every war humanity had ever fought. Ancient battles with swords and shields, naval conflicts with wooden ships, massive tank battles across muddy fields, and finally the sleek spacecraft duels of the early colonial period. Behind him, his research team was analyzing combat footage from a dozen alien species that had tried to resist the Council. Look at this pattern, Kevin said to General Amy Rodriguez as she entered his laboratory. Every species that fought the Council used the same basic tactics. Form battle lines, use your strongest weapons, try to match their technology. They all lost because they tried to fight the Council's kind of war. Amy studied the displays showing alien battle formations. Everything was neat, organized, and predictable. Ships moved in perfect geometric patterns. Weapons fired in coordinated volleys. Even their retreat formations followed mathematical precision. They fight like machines, Amy observed. Very efficient, very logical, but also very predictable. Kevin nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. And look at this. He pulled up footage of human conflicts from Earth's history. Humans have never fought that way. We use ambushes, feints, psychological warfare, and tactics that make no logical sense but somehow work anyway. The footage showed human soldiers doing impossible things, charging against overwhelming odds and winning through sheer determination, using broken equipment in ways it was never designed for, making split-second decisions that saved entire battles. Most importantly, adapting constantly as situations changed. The Council species have been part of galactic civilization for thousands of years, Kevin explained. They've grown soft. They rely on technology and established procedures for everything. But humans grew up on a death world where following the rules meant dying. Amy pulled up a chair and sat down to watch more footage. Tell me about this death world theory. Kevin's eyes lit up with excitement. This was his favorite part of the research. Earth is the most dangerous planet any spacefaring species has ever evolved on. Most alien homeworlds are stable, predictable places. Nice weather. Few natural disasters, evolution proceeding at a steady pace. But Earth tried to kill humans every single day. He showed Amy geological data from dozens of alien homeworlds compared to Earth. Look at these numbers. Most planets have maybe one or two types of natural disasters. Earth has earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, droughts, ice ages, asteroid impacts, and massive volcanic eruptions that can change the climate for decades. Amy was starting to understand. So while other species evolved in safe, stable environments, humans had to become incredibly adaptable just to survive. Right. And that's just the natural disasters. Earth also has the most diverse and dangerous ecosystem any species has encountered. Most alien worlds have a few hundred species total. Earth has millions. And a huge percentage of them can kill humans in creative ways. Kevin pulled up biological data that made Amy shake her head in amazement. Poisonous plants, venomous animals, microscopic diseases, parasites that eat you from the inside, predators with claws and teeth designed specifically for killing. Humans survived and thrived on a planet that was actively trying to eliminate them every day. That explains why we're so paranoid and aggressive compared to other species, Amy said. But how does that help us fight the Council? Kevin grinned and opened a new set of files. Because all that surviving and adapting gave humans mental abilities that other species don't have. We're better at pattern recognition, faster at processing new information, and much more creative at solving problems under pressure. He showed Amy test results from captured Council technology. Pete Collins and his engineering team have been reverse engineering alien equipment for the past week. They've made more progress than Council species typically make in decades, not because our technology is better, but because human brains work differently. Amy looked at the engineering reports and whistled softly. Pete's team had not only figured out how Council weapons worked, but they had found ways to improve them using human manufacturing techniques. More importantly, they had discovered weaknesses in Council defenses that the aliens themselves didn't know about. The Council builds everything to last for centuries, Kevin explained. Perfect construction, no wasted materials, designed to work the same way forever. But that makes their systems predictable and inflexible. Humans build things that are good enough to get the job done. Then we improve them constantly. Amy was beginning to see the possibilities. So while they have better individual ships, we might be able to overwhelm them with numbers and unpredictability. Exactly. And there's something else. Kevin pulled up psychological profiles of Council species. These aliens have been the dominant force in the galaxy for so long that they've forgotten how to lose. They've never faced an enemy that refused to surrender when outgunned. They've never dealt with opponents who get more dangerous when they're cornered. The door to the laboratory opened, and Captain Ryan Brooks walked in carrying a data pad full of fresh intelligence reports. His ship had been conducting reconnaissance missions along the edge of human space, gathering information about Council operations. Kevin, Amy, you need to see what we discovered, Ryan said urgently. The Council has observation posts monitoring our colonies, but they're not heavily defended. They seem to think that no species would be crazy enough to attack Council facilities. Amy and Kevin looked at each other with identical grins. How heavily defended? Amy asked. Each post has maybe 50 aliens total and one small warship. They're set up to watch and report, not to fight. I think they've never been attacked before. Kevin pulled up tactical displays of the observation posts. Perfect. Amy, what if we hit all of them simultaneously? Show the Council that humans don't follow their rules about how wars are supposed to be fought. Amy was already planning the operation in her head. We use small, fast ships with volunteer crews. Hit the posts hard and fast, then disappear before reinforcements arrive. The goal isn't to destroy them completely, but to show the Council that nowhere is safe from human retaliation. Ryan nodded enthusiastically. My crew has been studying Council communication protocols. If we time the attacks right, we can hit them before they can warn each other. The psychological impact would be enormous. Psychological warfare, Kevin said with satisfaction, another human specialty that galactic civilization has never encountered. The Council thinks in terms of logical military objectives. They won't understand attacks designed purely to make them afraid. Amy stood up and started pacing as plans formed in her mind. We need to start thinking like humans instead of trying to copy alien tactics. Quick strikes, unpredictable targets, and weapons they won't see coming. Make them afraid to spread their forces too thin. She turned to Kevin. How long do we have before the Council starts their integration process on our colonies? According to Helen's intelligence reports, about 1 week. But Amy, there's something else you should know. The Council has never faced a species that fought back after seeing what happened to previous rebels. They think fear will make us cooperate, Amy smiled grimly. Then they don't understand humans very well. Fear makes us dangerous, not cooperative. The more scared we get, the more creative we become at hurting our enemies. Kevin opened his final file, the one he had been saving for last. I've been studying human military history looking for patterns. Do you know what every successful human military leader had in common? Tell me. They all understood that the best way to win a war is to make your enemy fight your kind of fight instead of their own. The Council expects us to line up our ships and have a traditional space battle. Instead, we're going to turn this into the kind of chaotic, unpredictable conflict that humans excel at. Amy nodded with determination. Then let's start planning some chaos. It's time to show the Galactic Council what happens when they threaten the wrong species. President Lisa Carter stood alone in her office, looking out at the alien ships that still hung in Earth's orbit like dark clouds. In 30 minutes, she would address not just humanity, but the entire Galactic Council through their communication networks. The speech that would either save her species or doom them to extinction was sitting on her desk. But she already knew the words by heart. 5 days remained until the Council's deadline, but Lisa had made her decision weeks ago. Humanity would not surrender. They would not become another broken species serving alien masters. If the Council wanted Earth's resources and people, they would have to take them by force. The door to her office opened and Admiral Jake Morrison entered carrying the latest military reports. His face showed the strain of sleepless nights, but his eyes burned with determination. Ma'am, our preparations are as complete as we can make them in the time available, Jake reported. General Rodriguez has positioned strike teams near all the Council observation posts. Captain Brooks and his volunteers are ready for the raids on their communication hubs. Dr. Collins has finished modifying our weapons with the alien technology we captured. Lisa nodded. And our colonies. All civilian populations have been evacuated to defensive positions. Our military commanders have orders to resist any attempt at forced integration, even if it means fighting to the last person. Lisa felt her heart clench at those words. She was asking millions of humans to die rather than submit to slavery. It was the hardest decision any leader had ever made, but she knew it was the right one. A life of slavery was not really life at all. Jake, do you think we have any chance of winning this war? Jake was quiet for a moment. Ma'am, if this was a traditional military conflict, we'd be destroyed in hours. But Kevin Turner's research suggests that the Council has never faced an enemy like us. They don't understand human psychology or tactics. That might give us an advantage. Enough of an advantage to win, enough to hurt them badly, maybe enough to show other enslaved species that the Council can be fought. If we can inspire a galaxy-wide rebellion, then yes, we might have a chance. Lisa picked up her speech and read through it one more time. The words were simple and direct. designed to be understood by every human and every alien who heard them. She was not just declaring war on the Council. She was declaring war on the entire concept of galactic slavery. It's time, she said simply. Jake activated the communication system that would broadcast her words across human space and into the Council's networks. Lisa had insisted on using their own channels to deliver her message. She wanted the Council leadership to hear humanity's response directly. Citizens of Earth and all human colonies, Lisa began, looking directly into the camera. People of the galaxy who live under Council rule. Representatives of the Galactic Council who are monitoring this transmission. Today I speak for all of humanity in response to the Council's demand for tribute. She paused, letting the weight of the moment settle. Across human space, every person was watching. Across the galaxy, alien species were secretly tuning in to hear what the newest species would say. The Galactic Council has demanded that humanity surrender 60% of our resources and 40% of our people. They have given us 30 days to prepare for what they call integration into galactic civilization. After extensive study of Council methods and history, humanity's answer is simple. No. Lisa could imagine the shock rippling through Council leadership. No species had ever refused their ultimatum on a public broadcast. We reject Council membership. We reject Council authority. We reject the entire system of galactic slavery that the Council has built over thousands of years. Earth and all human colonies are now closed to Council vessels. Any Council ship found in human space will be considered hostile and will be engaged with all available force. She leaned forward, looking directly into the camera with the intensity that had made her one of Earth's most effective leaders. But humanity will not stop there. We declare our intention to actively oppose Council operations throughout the galaxy. We will provide aid and support to any species seeking freedom from Council rule. We will share our technology and tactics with anyone willing to fight for their independence. The Council's reign of terror ends today. Lisa stood up, her voice growing stronger with each word. To the enslaved species of the galaxy, we offer this message. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are not helpless. The Council has made you believe that resistance is impossible, but humanity is about to prove them wrong. Join us, and together we will break the chains that have bound the galaxy for millennia. She looked directly into the camera for her final words. To the Galactic Council, we say this. You picked the wrong species to threaten. Humanity has never bowed to tyrants, and we will not start now. You want a war, you have one, but this will not be the kind of war you are used to winning. This will be a human war, fought with human rules, and you are about to learn why that should terrify you. The transmission ended, and Lisa sat back in her chair. There was no taking back those words now. In a few hours, the Council would respond, and the galaxy would discover what happened when an unstoppable force met an unmovable object. Jake's communication system immediately began receiving signals from across human space. Military commanders reporting that their forces were ready. Colony leaders confirming that civilian populations were secure. Most surprisingly, coded messages from alien species offering secret support for humanity's rebellion. Ma'am, Jake said with amazement in his voice, we're getting response signals from over 40 different alien species. They're all asking for details about our resistance plans. Lisa smiled for the first time in weeks. It seems we're not as alone as the Council would like us to believe. The main display screen activated, showing Ambassador Zeth Cole's crystalline form. The alien's usual calm demeanor was gone, replaced by something that might have been anger or confusion. President Carter, your species has made a grave error, the ambassador said. The Galactic Council has offered you the honor of membership. No species has ever refused this offer and survived. Lisa stood up and faced the screen. Then humanity will be the first. We've studied your history, Ambassador. We know what Council membership really means. We know what happened to the Theron Confederacy and the Korth Republic and every other species that stood up to you. But here's what you don't understand about humans. Being threatened just makes us more determined to fight. Your resistance will accomplish nothing except the destruction of your species. Zethkol replied. Council forces number in the millions. Your entire military consists of a few hundred ships. You're right, we can't match your numbers or technology, Lisa admitted. But you've never fought humans before. You've never faced an enemy that gets more dangerous when cornered. You've never dealt with opponents who would rather die than surrender. You're about to get an education in human warfare, and I don't think you're going to enjoy the lessons. The ambassador's form flickered with what Lisa assumed was alien anger. Very well. Council enforcement fleets are already en route to your territory. You have 72 hours to reconsider your decision before we begin integration procedures by force. We'll be waiting for you, Lisa said calmly. But Ambassador, when this is over and your perfect galactic order is burning around you, remember that humanity tried to do this the easy way. You forced us to be your enemies. The transmission ended, leaving Lisa and Jake alone in the office. Outside, Earth's orbital defense platforms were powering up their weapons. Across human space, military forces were moving into position for the fight of their species' existence. Jake, send word to all our commanders. The war begins in 72 hours. Make sure everyone understands that we're not just fighting for humanity anymore. We're fighting for every enslaved species in the galaxy. We're fighting to prove that freedom is always worth the cost of defending it. The first Council enforcement fleet arrived at the edge of human space exactly 72 hours after President Carter's declaration. Admiral Jake Morrison watched from Luna Station as 200 alien warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Each ship was larger and more powerful than anything humanity had ever built. But Jake was no longer intimidated by their size. All units, "This is Morrison," he transmitted to the human forces scattered throughout the solar system. "Remember, we're not trying to win a traditional space battle. We're trying to prove that humans can hurt them, make every shot count, and make them pay for every meter of space they take." The Council fleet began moving toward Earth in a textbook approach formation. Their ships advanced in neat rows with perfect spacing, weapons charged and shields raised. It was exactly what human strategists had expected after studying alien military doctrine. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Council flagship," Communications Officer Williams reported. Jake nodded. "Put it through." A new alien appeared on the screen, this one wearing what looked like military decorations. "I am Fleet Commander Vorthak of the Council Enforcement Division. You will surrender your vessels immediately and prepare for planetary occupation." "This is Admiral Morrison of the Terran Defense Fleet," Jake replied calmly. "I'm afraid we're going to have to decline that offer." The alien commander looked confused, as if Jake had said something that made no sense. "Admiral Morrison, you are facing a fleet of 200 warships. Your entire defense force consists of 24 orbital platforms and perhaps 50 combat vessels. Resistance is mathematically impossible." Jake smiled grimly. "Commander, you're about to learn that humans don't much care about mathematics when it comes to protecting our homes." The first phase of the battle began exactly as Jake had planned. Hidden among the asteroids of the outer system, converted mining ships began accelerating toward the Council fleet at maximum speed. Their crews were volunteers who had volunteered for what everyone knew was a suicide mission. "What are those vessels doing?" Commander Vorthak demanded, as his sensors detected the approaching ships. "They are not warships. They appear to be industrial craft." "That's right," Jake confirmed. "Mining ships, cargo haulers, and civilian transports. All packed with explosives and piloted by people who would rather die than live as your slaves." The Council commander's expression showed something Jake had never seen on an alien face before: uncertainty. The approaching human ships were not following any recognized attack pattern. They were simply accelerating directly toward the Council fleet, with no regard for tactics or survival. "This is not acceptable military procedure," Vorthak protested. "Civilian vessels should not be used in combat operations." "Commander, you just threatened to enslave our entire species," Jake replied. "That makes every human a combatant, and every human ship a weapon of war." The suicide ships reached the Council fleet and began exploding in brilliant flashes of light. Each converted mining ship carried enough explosives to damage or destroy a Council warship, and their unexpected approach meant most of them reached their targets before the aliens could react. When the explosions stopped, 15 Council ships had been destroyed or heavily damaged. The perfect formation was broken, and for the first time in centuries, a Council fleet had taken casualties from a supposedly primitive species. "Impossible," Commander Vorthak whispered, staring at his tactical displays. "Your ship should not have been able to penetrate our defenses." "That's because you were defending against warships," Jake explained. "You never considered that we might use civilian vessels as weapons. That's the difference between humans and the rest of the galaxy, Commander. When our survival is threatened, everyone fights." The second phase of the battle began as Captain Ryan Brooks led a squadron of human ships in coordinated attacks on the Council rear guard. Instead of engaging in direct combat, the human ships used hit-and-run tactics that had been perfected in Earth's ancient naval wars. Council ships turned to pursue the human attackers, but every time they changed course, new human forces appeared from different directions. Mining equipment converted into weapons, cargo pods filled with explosives, even communication satellites reprogrammed to overload enemy sensors. The humans were using everything in their solar system as a weapon. "Sir, we're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy," Williams reported excitedly. "Alien species are monitoring our battle and broadcasting our tactics to their resistance cells." Jake felt a surge of hope. This was exactly what humanity had planned for. Not just to fight the Council, but to show every enslaved species that the Council could be hurt. Meanwhile, Dr. Helen Davis was coordinating humanity's secret weapon, information warfare. She had spent weeks preparing data packages that would be transmitted to every species in Council territory. The packages contained detailed information about Council weaknesses, human military tactics, and most importantly, proof that resistance was possible. "The information is spreading faster than Council sensors can stop it," Helen reported from her command center. "We're getting confirmation that at least 60 different species have received our tactical data. Across the galaxy, things that hadn't happened in 1,000 years were beginning to occur." Korth drones suddenly stopped following their programming and began sabotaging Council facilities. Theron survivors emerged from hidden bases and started attacking Council supply lines. Even some of the Council's client species began questioning orders and demanding explanations. Back in human space, the battle was entering its final phase. The Council fleet had been reduced to less than half its original size, but human losses were even heavier. Admiral Morrison's forces had fought with desperate courage, but they were still outnumbered and outgunned. "Admiral Morrison," Commander Vorthak transmitted, his voice showing strain for the first time, "this battle serves no purpose. You cannot win against the full might of the Council." "Commander, you still don't understand," Jake replied. "We're not trying to win this battle. We're trying to start a war that will spread across the entire galaxy, and in that goal, we've already succeeded." As if to prove his point, Jake's communication systems began receiving messages from human colonies throughout Council space. General Rodriguez's strike teams had successfully attacked every Council observation post simultaneously. Captain Brooks's raiders had destroyed 3 major communication hubs. Most importantly, alien resistance groups were launching their own attacks on Council facilities. "Sir," Williams called out urgently, "we're receiving a priority transmission from President Carter." The President appeared on Jake's screen, and behind her, Jake could see the lights of alien ships in Earth's sky. "Jake, Ambassador Zeth Cole has requested an emergency meeting." He's talking about negotiations. Jake couldn't hide his amazement. "Ma'am, the Council doesn't negotiate with anyone. They give orders and expect obedience. Apparently, they do negotiate when their entire system of galactic control starts falling apart," Carter replied with a grim smile. "Jake, we're getting reports that over 100 species have begun active resistance operations. Council forces are being attacked on dozens of worlds simultaneously." The communication screen split to show Ambassador Zeth Cole's crystalline form. The alien diplomat looked different than before, less confident and more desperate. "President Carter, the Council is prepared to discuss modified terms for humanity's integration," the ambassador said. "Your species has shown qualities that might be valuable in a different capacity." Carter leaned forward, her eyes hard. "Ambassador, the time for integration discussions ended when you threatened my people. Humanity has only one offer for the Council: complete withdrawal from human space and the immediate liberation of all enslaved species." "That is impossible," Zeth Cole protested. "The Galactic Order has existed for millennia. You cannot simply tear down thousands of years of civilization." "Watch us," Carter replied simply. "Ambassador, your Council made a critical error. You assumed that because you had broken so many species, you could break humanity too. But you picked the wrong species to threaten. We don't break. We fight back, and we teach others to fight back too." Jake watched his tactical display as more reports came in from across the galaxy. The fire of rebellion was spreading faster than anyone had imagined. Species that had been broken for centuries were remembering what freedom felt like. Council forces were being overwhelmed by sheer numbers as their slaves became their enemies. "Admiral Morrison," Commander Vorthak transmitted one final time. "This is not how galactic warfare is conducted. Your tactics violate every established protocol." "Commander, that's exactly the point," Jake replied. "The Council's protocols were designed to maintain your power and control. We're not following your rules because we're not playing your game. This is a human war now, and we're going to fight it our way." The remaining Council ships began withdrawing from human space, but Jake knew the war was just beginning. Across the galaxy, the message was spreading that the Council could be defeated. Humanity had lit a spark of rebellion that would burn across the stars until every species was free. President Carter's final transmission went out to the entire galaxy.